Welcome back. It's our off-season return. Getting the Twitter didn't like that tweet. Okay, it's okay with it now. All right. Well, I just tweeted out the show link, so hopefully, if anyone is missing it, or if you're watching on Twitter, don't watch on Twitter because you will not be able to comment. But yeah, once we get all that. Yeah, StreamYard and Twitter, I think, are blaming each other.
You know that never ends well.
Yeah, blame game. All right, so I've tweeted that out everywhere. So we're back. We will be doing this show about once per week. We're gonna find a good day or time. I don't know if this is gonna be the time that we stick to. It might be. It might not be. There's nothing particular about this time. This is just the time that we did in the season. So we may or may not change it. We can talk about that later. But yeah, we're here. We're mostly going to discuss Dynasty during the offseason, a little bit of real NFL. And occasionally we'll talk about Underdog and then some other stuff. So, yeah. What's up? Tell the people. It's been a while.
It has been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been a while.
I'm Ryan. I think you noticed me by now. I think the people do, but
I hope so.
My ad's Ryan Pros _FF, and we got a lot to talk about today. I'm excited. I'm really excited.
I know. It is weird always for me to do shows outside of my house, but you sometimes you got to make where you are your studio. So
exactly.
Here's what it
is. There's a lot that happened this past week too. We could even use a recap show if we wanted it.
Yeah, we definitely could have.
Tons going on, but
I forgot to put the link in my Discord. Well, anyway, let's. We have a show sheet, so you want to go for it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to start. I know the playoff games. There was but a couple of Dynasty players moving up and down the ranks sporadically. But I think we have to start with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think he's the
talk of Twitter these days, right? I mean, I can tell you that in DLF's recent ADP, you can tell me what you think of this. It's wide receiver 25, and overall 51. Overall is less important, but wide receiver 25. How does that sound to you?
It sounds a little high, but I'm one of those people that's probably going to be mocking a wide receiver to the Lions this offseason at the top of round 2. So
I think everyone is, though, right?
A lot of people are. I'm looking to see what he is on Keep Trade Cut. He was higher on Keep Trade Cut, I believe.
Oh, Keep Trade Cut. They visited I have him wide receiver 24, so I'm pretty good with that price, or I think if I counted correctly. But Keep Trade Cut, and I didn't want to bog down the DLF show with this, also because DLF, in some forms, is a competitor of Keep Trade Cut. But I had a good discussion with whoever runs the Twitter account for Keep Trade Cut. I don't know if that's the owner or the operator or whatever, but whoever runs that account, we had a good discussion about their site, and I was very happy to hear some of the things they have coming up. So keep an eye on that. Anyway, go ahead.
I like that site. It gauges the market really well.
Yeah, there are some issues, but just as like a general gauge, it's not bad.
Yep. So we're going to bounce back to DLF, and I use the trade finder for Amon-Ra St. Brown. We're going to go through a couple of trades here.
All right, hit me.
We have familiar trade. We have a familiar face in these trades too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we do. We'll save that one for the end. But
who is it?
First up, we have a 12-team PPR.
Back. I needed my soda. Go ahead. 12-team PPR.
12-team PPR. Amon-Ra straight up for Chase Claypool.
Okay. I have those two very close, but I'd still go Chase Claypool.
As would I. I mean, he's going to get an upgrade at quarterback, right? Ben's done.
Well, there can't be a downgrade, right? I mean, what would be a downgrade? Really, if you think about it, right? I mean, What's downgrade from Ben?
Teddy Bridgewater, maybe.
That's not a downgrade.
I know.
Not this year.
But that's like the worst possible outcome for the situation.
Yeah.
For Chase Claypool. Like that's the floor. The
Pretty
floor
much.
is Teddy Bridgewater. The ceiling is what? They get one of the big three.
Rodgers.
names.
Rodgers is the ceiling. Yeah. Rodgers.
I think we're gonna see a middle ground sort of, I've
been saying Jimmy G all day. That's what I've been saying.
I like that prediction.
Well,
I mean,
the good news is that we have more to say on that, or are we good?
I think we're good. I mean, I was just gonna say Jameis maybe, but he's coming off injury.
I kind of think Jameis was pretty successful with the Saints after kind of being meh elsewhere. I kind of think he's gonna probably go back there, to be honest.
I can agree with that.
He's probably not their first choice, but if they kind of strike out on the big names, I think you go back there.
I 200% agree with you. But yeah, it's close between those two.
Yeah, for sure.
Next up, we have a 14-team PPR Amon-Ra and I looked to the league settings. I looked in their league because I know you could do that on DLF. So I found out that this first was late for Stephon Diggs and a late second in a 14-team.
That feels a little light. I mean, how late? I guess is it, even if it's 1 QB or Superflex, not a big fan of this class. It feels light. Not that I want Diggs on my team, really. I want to trade him away. But it does feel value-wise a little bit light.
I agree. I mean, I know Stephon Diggs wasn't the Stephon Diggs this season that he was last year, but he was still incredibly productive. And, Amon-Ra is a question mark at this point.
He's not that much of a question mark to me.
He's more of a question mark to the point that they're going to add someone and they have Hawk coming back off the injury and Swift coming back to full health. Where do you think he's going to be in the pecking order of Detroit's offense next season?
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll be in there. I would like them to get a big outside wide receiver type player. Allen Robinson's not going to sign there, but I was thinking Michael Gallup would be a good fit, but injury might take him out of play. I mean, wide receivers usually finish ahead of tight ends in targets. I think it's possible Amon-Ra leads the Lions in targets. Is that
definitely a range of outcomes?
I think so. I mean, I just think that's not, far from. It's far from unrealistic to expect that, especially because tight ends block like a good 30-40% of the time. If you look at it, Amon-Ra, despite having a limited role, averaged more receptions per game than Hawkinson this year, just this year as a rookie. So more yards too. So more yards per game. So yeah, I mean, I think it's very reasonable that he led the team in targets this year. I think he could do it again. I
agree. I mean, I think they're going to bring in Drake London. That's going to be my mock pick at the top of the segment.
Sure. I think that, Amon-Ra is not going to be wide receiver one. I don't think you should expect him to be a wide receiver one, but, someone who can hold down reliable wide receiver 2 value maybe for a few years. Maybe he doesn't, though. Maybe he's the kind of player who got paper volume, and then, when better players come in, the volume goes away. We see players like that. Just a question of, and honestly, I think this is why he's valued so wildly differently, right? If you look at it, right? He's the kind of player that's just, some people are like, come all in, and some people are all out. You heard my value, wide receiver 24. You heard DLF, wide receiver 25. Clearly, we're on the same, DLF, ADP, and I are on the same page, essentially.
I think the markets almost are with you because Keep Trade Cut has him at 22.
That seems a little high.
Yeah. It's not that high, though. It's not like it's at, say 16, 17.
Yeah, that would be very high. But I know people who have him there.
So do I.
I just kind of, to me, I kind of feel like he's the start of a tier at 25. So I just don't see how I get him up to 22. But if you don't agree with me and think he's in the next tier up, then you could easily have him at 22 or even 18 or 19. So I get it. Let's see. We have some comments in the chat. So this is going to be put out on a podcast, hopefully. Not promising it. Things can always go wrong. This is the first time we're ever doing this. And look, the video will be there on YouTube. The video will be there. You can go and watch it. You don't have to watch the video. You can listen on YouTube and just not watch the video. So it's an option available to you. You can watch YouTube on your phone. But we are hoping to get this up and running as a podcast soon. If somehow we fuck up this show, fair enough, and we'll get it sorted. But it will be a podcast. And once we get that set up, in the season, I just didn't have time to worry about that. But we will have all of our shows on this channel, at least the ones we do together, as podcasts moving forward. So hopefully that is this week. We have some comments in the chat, though. And since this may be a podcast, I will read them a little more carefully than I usually would. So from Spock498 says, "Hey, guys. Yes, welcome to the show." We have another one from Marcus. "What's up, guys?" Yes, thank you. Okay, so first question from Spock again. So what will happen to the Eagles backfield in 2022? Well, luckily we have an Eagles fan here. So what do you think about Spock's question? What do you think about that?
It's definitely a great and valid question, because me being the residential Eagles fan, I don't even think I know what's going to happen. I mean, they seem so uncommittal to Miles Sanders, uncommitted to him after a second-round capital. He's been a little not good. He had 0 rushing touchdowns this season. 0.
Yeah, I mean, that's not great. You should have rushing touchdowns.
And, Jordan Howard was, I forget how many he exactly had, but Jordan Howard and Boston Scott were taking all of the touchdowns, all of them. So could they draft a guy in the 3rd, 4th? Probably not. I think they're going to roll with Gainwell.
So.
I think they're going to roll with Gainwell, and I think they're going to phase Sanders out at some point, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see. I mean, the way I see it is that next year, I think you see something similar to what you saw this year. Something from Scott, Howard, Gainwell behind Sanders, maybe another veteran backup or whatever. And then when Sanders, I don't think they retain Sanders when his rookie deal expires. I think his deal expires this year and he walks, and then they replace him in 2023 with someone else. But I do think they run back status quo next year, more or less. But I'm not particularly interested in Kenneth Gainwell. I don't think Kenneth Gainwell is the answer. I think Kenneth Gainwell is just a backup. He'll be the backup for Sanders now, and he's going to be the backup to the new guy in 2023. And that's also all I think he is. Just backup.
That class is loaded with running backs.
I'm not targeting the Eagles' backfield, to put it that way. I don't want Sanders at his price. I don't really want Gainwell at his. And the other guys are not relevant. Okay, so from Spock again, RSJ landing spot worth a stash. Ricky Seals-Jones, that is. I would say no. He had his time in the middle of the season, and his time was over. Even with Logan Thomas out, he couldn't do anything later. So I'd say no. You have anything to add?
No, I agree.
Yeah, I think that's
that. I target rookies from this past year. Say go out and get a trade for a Kylan Granson, probably more upside there.
Kylan Granson, Noah Gray, even John Bates on the same team I like better.
Exactly. Something
Josiah DeGuara.
It'll cost you a little bit more than a stash. Just a
Tommy Tremble.
The Tommy Tremble jet sweep on the goal line was the most Matt Rule thing I think I've seen this whole season. He called it at least 6 times?
I can't, but anyway, Russell Gage. We want to talk. Spock wants to talk about Russell Gage. Well, Russell Gage is a free agent, right? So, I mean, do you think he's gonna stay in Atlanta or find himself in a new location?
I mean, I think that Atlanta's a mess. We know this.
It's a mess, yeah.
Salary cap's a mess. I feel like Russell Gage had a solid enough season that someone will outbid Atlanta.
Well, I mean, Russell Gage is going to get a job. It's just a question of where.
It's going to be somewhere else. I don't know where. There's a lot of wide receiver needy teams. Chiefs, Bills are going to have a spot open probably.
Yeah, I mean, he essentially duplicated his 2020 and 2021. If anything, he was a little bit better in his per game stats. So I think people are going to see this and they're going to, someone's going to pay him something. But I think he'd have to go to like a perfect landing spot to really get any real intrigue, like the Chiefs or the Packers.
Yep.
It's always the same team. It's always the same teams mentioned, right? I do think that there are some teams where he would be, if he signed somewhere as the wide receiver 3, he might not have fantasy value, but it would make the offense scary. Like, if he signed in Dallas as the wide receiver 3 to replace Gallup somehow, that would be keep the offense at a strong level. There are a couple other places, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, places where he could sign as a wide receiver 3 to really kind of add to the offense.
I'm just ready to mock every skill position player to Buffalo.
Well, I mean, we all want to go there, right? Pretty much.
Send all the running backs, send all the wide receivers straight to Buffalo.
I don't know if I want to put a running back in Buffalo. Maybe.
Devin Singletary is impressive down the stretch. That's something we have to talk about. I think we should wait a little bit till his postseason runs over to expand more on it. Maybe it's up to you.
Yeah, we can wait on it
because he's still going. He's still kicking.
We have a surprising number of questions in the chat, by the way.
Love to see that. It's Dynasty season. It's never the off season, right?
I know. All right. From Marcus, contending roster. Running backs are CMC, Javonte, J.K. Dobbins, Antonio Gibson, Kenneth Gainwell, Khalil Herbert, and Jeff Wilson. Should I sell CMC now or do I hold? Well, typically I would say selling CMC is a good move, just given his age and the injuries. But I need to get a good return for CMC. I'm not just going to give him away. So, yeah, that's kind of my take on CMC.
Highly agree. I mean, what's he going at redraft right now in the redraft rankings? No lower than 3 for this
redraft.
Yeah, for this next season, I see people ranking redraft rankings already. Which
I mean, JT is 1. Haven't thought about redraft 2022 really at all. JT is 1. I mean, who else is up there?
Eckler, Henry.
Eckler, Cook, Henry, Kamara, still.
Najee, probably.
Mixon.
It's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of running backs in consideration, but I think that, I don't know. I mean, CMC, I have a feeling we're going to go back to this again and we're going to burn again, but I'm very curious where his ADP ends up. But yeah, I think he's still top 5 redraft. So don't sell him for nothing. Dustin says that my different background and headphones threw him off. Well, if you're listening on podcast, you wouldn't know. But yeah, I'm not home right now. Okay. We have a big trade in the chat from Spock. Again, 102, 109, and Knox for Pitts. 12-team Superflex, no tight end premium. What do you think about this one? This is interesting. No tight end premium.
I wish there was a tight end premium. It'd be such an easy smash if there was a premium. Yeah. I don't know. I'm one to value this class a little more than I see the general consensus valuing it. I know we talked a little bit about Treylon Burks yesterday. You got Corral. You got Howell. One of those quarterbacks could get a dream landing spot, and you never know, but I'm a big fan of Kyle Pitts. When you go get game-changing talent like Kyle Pitts is going to be, I think you just got to go do it.
This is too expensive. I'm not paying this.
I know, but
I'm not paying this though. In a super flex without a tight end premium, I'm not paying this. I mean, you're talking about giving up a likely quarterback at 102, another first-round pick at 109, and Knox, who isn't bad for Pitts. I get it, but this is too expensive. I'm not doing this.
It's understandable.
And then the same deal with Connor added. So if I said no to the first one, I'm going to say no to that one too.
I'm going to say no to the second one. James Conner's going to play somewhere next year. He's going to be decent. He's shown.
Oh, I agree.
I don't know where. Probably back in Arizona, as far as you could guess.
Yeah, so I think they're going to re-sign one of them. We're going to like whoever they re-sign, and I think I'm going to fade whoever they don't. I think that those players really succeeded there. Not sure either one it would do so well elsewhere. So again, I'm gonna like whoever they sign and dislike whoever they don't. But I don't think they let both walk. I think one resigns. Could be both. I think it's more likely the Cardinals resign both Connor and Edmonds than let both walk. I don't think they're gonna let both walk. Okay, so we have a question from Stefan, I guess. Stefan Peterson here. So what is the best 10-team Superflex strategy? And then he clarifies just your general thoughts on what you would do in a 10-team Superflex. So obviously, this question, you could do a whole show on this question. But I'll why don't you go first? I actually had a similar question to this recently on the Ask the Left show. Why don't you go first? Tell the people your thoughts on a 10-team Superflex.
Well, I recently did one, and
you did? Okay, that's perfect. Good.
I recently did one, and so like I was big on. Okay, so keep in mind it's probably different than most leagues because I drafted at the 10 slot and I was guaranteed the 101. So in the rookie draft, so that was Trevor Lawrence. So like I had a quarterback, but I don't value quarterbacks in 10-team Superflexes. I value the top high-end skill position players, your JTs, your Jamar Chases, your Kyle Pitts if there's a premium. I also trading back. I think trading back. If you could trade back and get a good return, I think you have to do that as well. But quarterback, I think we've had this talk before. You only start
many
20.
times, yeah.
You only start 20. It's not a 14 where you have to start 28 and all the league's going to be starting quarterbacks. Like high end production. Value the high end production out of your position players.
How many startable quarterbacks do you think there are? Really?
Like in general?
Yeah, in general. Like, let's say you're playing fantasy football, right? How many quarterbacks would you say you could start every week? I'm not saying as a quarterback 1. As a quarterback 2, you could start and they won't kill you. How many quarterbacks are there? Really? How many do you think of those there are?
I'd probably say there's about like half the league, 14, 15.
I think it's a little more. Like if I look from top to bottom, you tell me when I get to someone who doesn't fit that criteria. Mahomes, Allen, Kyler Murray, Herbert, Jackson, Burrow, Dak, Jalen Hurts, Stafford, Mac Jones, Carr, Cousins, Rodgers. I mean, that's already Brady. That's already 17. Tannehill
maybe.
And that doesn't even include like rookies like Lawrence, Lance, Fields, who might develop into that. So in 10-team Superflex, nobody's really feeling the pain at quarterback. Almost everyone has 2 guys that they're at least okay with. Everyone can have 3 starters, and there's just no pressure. In a 12-team Superflex, there is a little bit. There really are not 24 usable quarterbacks. There's, depending on how you count it, between 15 and 20, but there's not 24. And then once you get to higher numbers of leagues, like 14 or 16 team, then you really are in like kind of a bad situation if short on quarterback. But generally in 10-team Superflex, I devalue quarterbacks pretty significantly, especially the middling quarterbacks. I'm more likely to try to scrape through than I would be otherwise. Like scrape through with, like Garoppolo. No, Carr is not even scraping.
Carr's too high.
Yeah, Carr's not scraping. Like if I have a team that, let's say my quarterbacks going into the year were one really good player like Herbert, and then I had like Garoppolo, Winston, Bridgewater, like I wouldn't, and that's all I had, I wouldn't feel the same need in a 10-team Superflex because backup quarterbacks often end up on waivers when they don't. In 12-team Superflex, the quarterback panic and value is just not there in a 10-team Superflex like it is in 12. So I think that's good on that. Okay. From Weaves, if you rostered JT and Pittman, would you try to upgrade Pittman slightly to like a Devonta Smith, Elijah Moore, Godwin type, or just hold? Well, okay, I'll start with I don't care about rostering JT and Pittman. So if that's the case, if that's the concern, I'm not concerned about that. But what about I'm not sure that I see all these. Well, what do you think? I'm not sure I see all these players in upgrade.
I mean, I see Elijah Moore's name just sitting there, and
yeah, I mean Elijah Moore is an upgrade, but it's not because I roster 2 Colts. That's not factoring into my decision.
I'd still do it, but it doesn't factor into my. You could own as many of the same team as you want. If the team's good, they're going to score fantasy points.
True, although that team is not good.
That's fair. That's a fair assessment.
I get the concern, but you probably just have to hold, especially with how Pittman finished the season and his talent. Now is not a time to sell. So I would just hang on to him. Okay, I kind of like this question from Jason. So do you guys have an off-season strategy? Do you like to make trades early or just sit back and research the players coming in? What do you think?
This is a league-dependent thing because I've noticed myself making trades in leagues early, and I noticed no trades at all in some dynasty leagues. So I think it just depends on your league mates, who you play with. Also, how early you get a jump on the class. I know if you log on to Twitter, the Traylon Burks hype train, it's left the station a long time ago.
Yeah, I'm definitely on the slow side with the class. Like, it's going to be a while before I'm really giving like rookie takes on Twitter anyway.
See, that's fine, especially with this class. Like it's next year. We've all been talking about that forever.
We've all been talking about it forever. Yeah, as for an off-season strategy, I mean, I'll make trades if I have the opportunity to make trades. I've been a little bit out of it recently, but I also don't have that many in my own leagues. And leagues, I don't have any teams. I have one where trading is locked right now, another where I've already ripped my whole team apart and have all the picks already, so I don't have any moves I really want to make. And then everything else I have is Patreon. I've been telling most of my patrons, like, cool it, like, don't push it. If you're making a deal right now, it's probably something you force through and you're not going to be happy with it. So I don't want to say sit back and don't try, but I also don't want to force it. Forcing it usually gets you burned in Dynasty. That's usually not a good idea. But it's not, the reason I would be waiting is not an informational advantage. It's more of a league dynamic advantage. I think I always have an informational advantage pretty much over 99% of people. That might be egotistical, but again, I've been doing this a long time. Actually, I haven't been even doing this that long. I just spend so much time on doing this that I feel like I have a massive edge over your average Dynasty player. So from Marcus. Oh, here we go. Okay. Process-wise when drafting, do you guys value landing spot for rookies or talent? He gives an example: Clyde in Kansas City versus JT in Indy or Swift in Detroit. So, I mean, talent first, right?
So it's always the talent.
Yeah. What matters the most for landing spot? Which position? Well, first of all, draft capital matters to me more than landing spot. Draft capital matters to me for every position. The way it matters is a little different based on the position. Like for quarterbacks, just being in the first round isn't good enough. I want you to be top 5. Running backs, it's a sliding scale. Wide receivers, I want you to be on the first 2 days, but Amon Ra beat that this year. And then tight end is tougher. So, draft capital always factors in for me. Landing spot depends on the position, really. Tight end, it really doesn't factor in at all. But the others, somewhat.
Yeah, I agree. I think quarterback is the most in my eyes.
I think running back is the most.
There's arguments to be made for both, but I just think with the surrounding talent, the coaches, all that to factor into quarterback, I just think there's more factors.
I do kind of feel like good quarterbacks often shine through it, though, no matter what. I don't know. Wide receiver is important too because they're so dependent on the quarterback. But running back getting the opportunity to play is also kind of important. But in general, it's always talent first. Okay, so Stefan again. Do I upgrade from Rondo Moore as my last flex, or do you like him still? Other options, chart, game one. Okay, so we're not talking about what your last flex is. I don't care about that. We're not setting a lineup right now. We're not setting a lineup for about 8 months. So let's pivot to the other way the question was asked. Like, do we still like Rondale Moore? Do we?
I mean, pivoting around that, I see 201 and 202 there, and I think you could draft a excellent replacement with the picks there. I think George Pickens is going to be there. I think Jahan Dotson is going to be there. I think there's a couple of players that are going to be there that I like better than Rondell Moore, or will end up grading higher for me than Rondell did.
Yeah, it's possible. But I think Rondell Moore has a lot of risk. Because what if they re-sign Christian Kirk? What if they re-sign Kirk? I did that thread on Christian Kirk where I asked people to call their shot on his landing spot. And, he a lot of people said back to Arizona, more than I thought.
Interesting.
So if that happened, then what happens with Rondell Moore? Bad, right?
It's not good.
It's not good because Christian Kirk plays well out of the slot. Rondell Moore also plays well in the slot, and they do run a lot of 4 wide receiver sets, but not that many, especially not if they sign Zach Ertz, and they could easily re-sign Ertz. So yeah, there's a big risk with Rondell Moore right now, with Kirk kind of hanging over him.
Yeah, I like his picks though to potentially upgrade from Rondell.
Yeah,
especially in a 10-teamer, he is 11 and 12.
Yeah, I agree, and super flex too. All right, best landing spot for rookie receivers for Marcus. What's a good landing spot?
Well,
hard to say now before free agency. Free agency will give you a better idea.
Totally agree, but I'll just give a contingency one. The Chargers if Mike Williams leaves.
Oh, I love that one. It would suck for Josh Palmer, but I love that one.
Put Treylon Burks in LA.
Yeah, I would love that one. I think the Bills are not a bad landing spot. And the Chiefs, like always, are a pretty good landing spot.
Yeah. A lot of ones I want to avoid this year, though. Like the Browns are in the market for the wide
Browns
receiver.
Would be very bad. Yeah, I don't want anyone who goes to the Browns.
I think that's the big avoid that I've been looking at mocks. I've been seeing a lot of Patriots, Vikings.
Patriots, I don't want that one.
Patriots, Vikings, Browns. I've seen some Eagles too. I see a comment down there.
Eagles I don't like at all. Yeah. There are some Texans.
Yep. I've seen Atlanta too.
Atlanta is not. Yeah, Atlanta might. Depends.
It's not as bad as the other ones.
All right. So from Jesse needs help. Rebuilding. Okay. There's a lot of help. Okay. I'm not going to read the whole roster because that doesn't play well on podcasts. Essentially, what I would say here to you, Jesse, is you have the 102, and you have some good young wide receivers. Just kind of don't panic. Most of your players are young. You have Josh Jacobs and Ertz. I'd try to get them off your team, and then just kind of move forward with the rest of your players.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Okay, so and check out my Patreon if you want team advice, because that's really where I do that. All right, from Weaves. Would you move JT for Herbert in 10-team half PPR Superflex with slightly boosted quarterback scoring? Only starters I have are Russell Wilson and Trevor Lawrence. So would you? Probably not, right? In 10-team Superflex, you'd rather have JT?
Slightly boosted QB scoring still no. 10 teams.
I'll take JT.
If you didn't have a serviceable second starter, I'd say yes. But I think Trevor is going to take a leap here.
I'm fine with that. I'll take JT there. I'll hold on to JT. You should get more for JT than this.
Yes.
And Ed says, don't forget to like and subscribe, which I completely agree with. Maddie Daddy says, great show. Thank you. I hope you guys like it. We're going to try to keep doing this throughout the offseason, and we'll have it out in podcast form as well. All right. From West Coast Shiver what's up, guys? Is Mooney and 106 too much to pay for DJ Moore? I have the 206. Should I offer that first? Thanks. What do you think? Do you think Mooney and the 106 is too much to pay for DJ Moore?
I mean, first off, you should offer the 206 first.
Try and offer the 206 and Mooney for more and see how that goes. It'll be rejected, but try it. If that doesn't work, in a 1 QB league, I'm fine with this. In a Superflex league where there could be quarterbacks available, I'd probably pass on offering Mooney and 106 for DJ Moore.
Yeah.
Seems a little unnecessary. Yeah, from Weaves. He says he loves Burke's talent, but if he lands in the Eagles, people pump the brakes kind of hard. Unfortunately, I do think anyone who goes to the Eagles is screwed because
3 first-round wide receivers in a row. 3.
Yeah, I just think it's anyone who goes there is screwed. Like Devonta Smith was great; he played great, and he still wasn't all that great for fantasy. So, and then another target there. Dallas Goedert is locked in. Jalen Hurts is not going to become a great passer. I don't think he might be okay. If he can progress to being an okay passer, he'll be a successful quarterback. And he has progressed from year 1 to year 2. But I don't think he's going to become a great passer ever. So, unfortunately, anyone who goes to the Eagles is going to get dinged for me. To add this, Jesse says to add this league.
10 super flex.
10-team PPR. Yeah, we talked about that league right now. From Weez, Garrett Wilson to the Browns will be so sad. Yeah, that would be sad. Anyone to the Browns would be sad with Baker there. And then this question from Jesse: would you Jacobs and 108 from Monty? No, absolutely not. No. Jacobs and Monty carry similar value, so I'm not adding a 108 to Jacobs to get Monty. All right, let's go back to the show sheet because there's still some stuff on the show sheet.
Yeah, we still have some Amon-Ra trades. I mean, we could skip the Cooper Kupp one and go. Our buddy Luke made an Amon-Ra trade. He got kind of grilled for it because he's one of the biggest Amon-Ra supporters.
I do know that.
So he traded Amon-Ra, Saquon, and Ramondre Stevenson and a 2023 first for Jonathan Taylor.
Well, I mean, it's certainly a big move. Amon-Ra, Saquon, Ramondre Stevenson, 2023 first for Jonathan Taylor. I'm not doing that. If I have all those players, I'm not packaging them all just for JT. I'm not doing that. I just don't do that. I don't do these kind of 4-for-1 trades with a lot of assets. It just doesn't feel right. I get it, though. I mean, yeah, it's not the worst trade ever. Honestly, it's pretty fair.
I get on board with that.
But this is probably a case where I'm not doing this either way. If I have JT, I'm not taking players I don't want, like Saquon, as the biggest piece in return. So I'm not doing that. And if I had this package, this is not what I'm doing with it. I'm trying to trade Saquon for something else and keeping the other 3 things. So I'm probably not doing this trade either way. If I would do something else with whatever side I had.
It's understandable. I could see both sides, want to make a move for JT because JT's hard to acquire, obviously, but
yeah, no, I get
a lot. It's a lot.
All right, we have a few more questions in the chat. So Kirk for 2023 second, Kirk Cousins, and a Superflex obviously in a 1 QB no, but in Superflex I'd rather have Kirk Cousins over 2023 second.
Yeah. And
then I made an Amon-Ra St. Brown trade, shift off St. Brown for Mike Evans and Zach Ertz. I guess I'm fine with that, but I'm fine with that.
Yeah. I think it's fair value in return.
Yeah, it's pretty good value. All right. So, I mean, we're at the bottom of the chat. There's a couple other things. You want to go to those?
Yeah. You want to start with our underdog segment? I can't pronounce right now.
Let's start with underdog. So, as you all know, I partner with Underdog. You can use my code Tyler, and then letter K like my last name. And if you use that code, you can get up to $100 matched with your initial deposit. So, check that out. But yeah, let's jump to the segment.
Yeah, because I mean, we might want to jump quick because it looks like they do a $25 entry and a $5 entry. It looks like the $5 mitten, the mitten that they call it for the rest of the playoffs best ball, is almost full. It's nearing full capacity.
Well, let's just look at the ADP. How do we look at that?
We're just gonna look at the ADP. I'm just saying you might want to hop in that.
Yeah, if you're looking to play, you can hop into that. But
let's hop in that quick. But
how do we see the ADP?
So, for anyone who doesn't know this, to go to the ADP, you have to go to the top left of the screen, click Edit Rankings. That's what the tab's called, and then you click on the sport you want to play. This case being NFL. and then this would be NFL best ball 3 rounds because this is for
Yeah,
the divisional. If your players get knocked out, they're gone. Trust me, I did some ones like weeks ago for this. I had like JT, I had Justin Jefferson.
So you didn't get to play him at all.
I didn't get to play him at all, but other people were drafting like Antonio Brown in round 2, round 3. So it was wild looking back on those drafts, but this is only for 3 rounds, so your players are guaranteed to play this week. You don't have to choose anyone on a bye like people were doing last week. People strategically setting it up, picking Devontae Adams, Derrick Henry, on top of the players that they had to finish top 2 out of 6. But we could look at the underdog ADP right now, and this contest is a start 10, not a start 10 roster, 10 start 5. So you're going to start 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 2 wide receivers, and a flex, whoever scores highest out of running back or wide receiver. And I mean, looking at the initial rankings, I don't know if you have any initial thoughts of who you'd like to pick, because remember, you're picking for 3 rounds, 3 weeks, not just 1, but you have to make it.
Yeah, I mean, Devontae Adams is at the top, then Josh Allen, then Patrick Mahomes, then Kupp, Hill, Rodgers. Yeah, it seems like wide receiver and tight end are put together as well. So
yes,
it's interesting that I guess there's a lot of weight given on who's going to win, because Devin Singletary is higher than Joe Mixon, for example. Derrick Henry is number 1, and Aaron Jones is 2, which is funny because I'm not a big fan of Aaron Jones, but I guess that people think the Packers are going to go far. I don't know. This is like not something I tend to be very good at, but I think it's interesting to look at it. But yeah, I haven't been paying attention to like playoff matchups, like playoff DFS, like playoff start sit. I'm on the off season already, so I haven't. I don't know too much about like matchups this week. I mean, I know who's playing, but that's it.
Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, Devin Singletary is very high, but Devin Singletary has been extremely high.
I know he's been a monster. We're gonna have to talk about him. Oh, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think we'll talk more about underdog when we move to best ball. Yeah. But I did want to discuss this week that the playoff contest is available to play for these 3 weeks. So if you want to do that, go check it out on underdog. But yeah, for me, it's tough because I don't really I don't play fantasy during the playoffs. So I don't play DFS. But I know that they're big on, best ball, and best ball is similar to redraft. So we'll talk about that more as the offseason goes on.
I'll just lob in a couple.
Go for it.
Suggestions that I think are great plays. I really like. I think San Fran is going to upset Green Bay this week.
What do you?
I don't know if it's a gut thing. I don't know if it's because they beat him last time. I really like Debo at 18.6. Debo has been carrying that team in a third round MVP. I absolutely love that. And then I scroll down a little bit. You got Elijah Mitchell down there, obviously. And then I have a lot of upsets for this.
Mitchell is super low, yeah. If they move on, I love that Jerick McKinnon is higher than Clyde. that makes me happy. But yeah, so check that out. And then we don't have too much else to do, really. I want to get the rest of the questions in the chat, and then I think we can wrap it up, honestly. We're going to try to keep this show on between 45 minutes and an hour, I think. Because I've noticed that when you take a podcast, especially over an hour, the listen rate and people just start turning you off. So we're gonna shoot for that 45 minutes to an hour range on these shows. Try to keep those. Try to squeeze it all into a good time frame. Not give you too long of a show. Okay, so let's finish the questions in chat, especially because I think this is a good one. So from Jason, a 12-team super flex, even with quarterbacks being talked down by many in this draft class, do you still value them higher during the draft, assuming they land on a decent team with decent draft capital? What do you think about that?
I agree. I mean, I think they should be valued a little higher than they are, because I saw this. I forget who mentioned it. It was someone. It might have been a YouTube comment or something else, but they all have rushing ability, which is very valuable to fantasy football. I'm not saying none of them are like Lamar or anything like that, but Sam Howell, Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral. I remember I was like, can this Matt Corral guy run? And then he ran for 250 yards in the next game.
We had so much talk about whether it was Coral or Corral. on SDLF. But I think for me, the draft capital is going to matter more than the team. Like if there's no quarterback drafted in the top 10, I'm going to downgrade them all because the hit rate really declines as you go down from the top pick, and every pick you go down for quarterback, it's severe. The decline in hit rate as you get out of the top 5, then out of the top 10, then out of the top 15, et cetera, et cetera. So it's the draft capital. I would like it if we can sneak 2 quarterbacks in the top 5. It might not happen, but I would like it if we did. So that's going to be the big mover for me, is what happens there.
Currently, I don't see any, but I think Pickett and Howell go top 10. I think
anything could happen. It's exactly. still early. It's like Ed said, it's still early in the scouting process, not seeing running backs to blow them away.
I agree with Ed.
I agree with Ed on the running backs not being blown away. Blowing us away. So from David, we have a trade question. DJ Moore or 108 and Rondale Moore. 12-team Superflex, half PPR, deep starting lineups. I just feel like 108 is a little low. And then Rondale Moore's just not enough. So I'll take DJ Moore in this deal.
I agree. Get him a quarterback.
Yeah. I'll take DJ Moore. I'm not sure Rondale Moore is going to be much of anything. Ed disagrees. He likes the value of 108 and Rondale Moore. I'm not there. And then again from Ed, I'll move a lot of 22 first for 23 first if we can. Yeah. This year, I'm more inclined to move a mid to late 2022 first for 2023 first than I am in other years. So that's going to be a move I'm going to try to make. From Robert, how do you determine value of a player recovering from an injury? Do you count the injury type, how often a player is injured, or their age? I was intrigued in taking a chance on a few players. Okay. How do I determine value? That depends on the player. So there's no hard and fast rule. Do I count the injury type? Yes. Their age? Absolutely. How often a player is injured? In rare cases only. There are very few players that I consider to be injury prone. When you see me downgrading a player for injury, it's because they had an injury and then came back, played, and looked like shit after the injury. I am less willing than most to just assume that they're eventually going to go back to the way they were before the injury. So that's why I'm so harsh on Saquon Barkley, but not harsh on CMC, who's been excellent every time he's played. So, that's kind of an example to show you my thinking. Akers came back, took 17 carries in his second game back, and he's young. So I'm more likely to bet on a younger player coming off an injury. So he's someone I'm pretty in on. But, you have Will Fuller. Mysterious injuries tend to be something I'm out on. Will Fuller was just out and then never came back, and we don't know why. That is generally something I'm going to take a pass on such a player like that. So, that's just a few things, but no hard and fast rules. Ask me player by player. You're better off asking me player by player on injuries than asking me for anything hard and fast. And I assume you'd agree with that?
Yes, I definitely agree with that. 100%. Yeah. All of it.
Okay, so from Stefan, is this a bad strategy? I try to get multiple second round picks instead of one first round pick. Yes, that's a very bad strategy. Don't do
that. First. Always.
Yeah, always the first. Robert says, thanks, guys. Well, thank you for listening and watching or whatever, however you're consuming this. What's DJ Chark's value from Stefan? That's a good question. I mean, what do you think is going to happen with him? You think he's going to re-sign? I think he's going to re-sign in Jacksonville.
Yeah. What else does Jacksonville have? I mean, Laviska Shenault did not do anything this year.
I think that Urban Meyer was the one who didn't like Chark, and he's gone. So I think that, they're going to retain him personally. So, yeah. And what's his value? I don't know. I mean, less than a first, obviously. He's probably worth some sort of second.
Early, mid-second, probably.
Not even. More like mid. Mid. Closer to late, honestly, given how he's played the last 2 years. He has one good year, one usable year out of 4. So, all right. Are you worried about the quarterback? We'll make this combo about Deontay Johnson the last couple of questions. So from Stefan says, are you worried about the quarterback situation for Deontay Johnson? And then Ed says that, which is how I feel, that Deontay is a wide receiver that almost any quarterback should do well with. That's where I'm at. That I think Deontay Johnson is. Ben has been terrible, so I think he's going to be fine. I'm not worried about the quarterback situation at all.
Not at all.
You there with that?
All you got to do is look at Deontay's reception perception from the season.
It's all green.
A lot of green.
Yeah. A lot of green. I always say he has a lot of green. Juju has a lot of red.
Oh,
that's why Deontay is better. All right. Well, I mean, we're right at the 50-minute mark, which is kind of what I set out to do. So Well, let's wrap up the show. Tell the people what you're working on first, and then I'll finish off with what I'm working on.
Yeah, I'm working on a surprise project or two that I could reveal at a later date.
Okay, obviously, I like that. I like that.
Obviously, I'll be writing for the Vipers again. I'm gonna do the year. I can't speak right now. My year in review sooner than 1 week before the season that I did last year. But that's about all I'm working on right now. What are you working on?
Well, I mean, we have this channel. We'll be doing this show. There might be some other shows, but I'm going to do a solo show from time to time. If I get some time, I might do some guest spots or some other shows. But I'm kind of taking it a little easy. I have all my writing at Dynasty League Football. I've been doing a little bit more writing now that the season is over. I've had some more time. Did some team capsule articles. I also do an article reviewing the Ask DLF show, which is Tuesday night, every Tuesday night at 9 Eastern on the DLF YouTube channel. So you can catch that. It's me answering questions. The whole show is just about the live chat on that one. So, just tune in, ask your questions of me there. And then, of course, patreon.com/fantasy advice is my Patreon. Underdog, if you use the code Tyler K, you get up to $100 in free matched money by using that code, Tyler K there. And then the last thing is Twitter, which is right there. At DLF_carp. Yeah, I got it right away, right?
So difficult.
I know. But yeah, check me out on Twitter. So all these other things, anything I'm doing, will show up on my Twitter at some point. But yeah, if you've enjoyed the show, make sure to like the video, subscribe to this channel, and I will catch you all on the flip side.